Big interview listeners, you can see that I'm quite intimidated because I've never, even on television, worked in front of so many cameras before, but still more of an intimidating factor, Stephen Glass. Tim Sherwood's front living room with a white carpet that meant I had to take our shoes off. Gianluca Vialli's London mansion where the door was answered by a butler in full butler gear. I could go on and on about the mad place. Duffer at Croke Park in a suite overlooking. But Stephen Glass, the Pittodrie boardroom. Thank you. Let's just establish, I do not deserve this.
No, you do. You do.
When was the first time you can remember setting foot in this hallowed place?
I don't remember exactly, but it was probably when I was a kid. It would have been when I was coming up at like 12, 13, as a schoolboy from Dundee. We'd come up for the week during the school holidays for a whole week, stay in the digs in the Great Western Road. There was probably 15 of us. Minibus to training, train, minibus to dinner at night, go to Cadona's once that week. And that was it. So probably then, so 12-ish year old, yeah.
You can answer that, apart from this question, which I'm coming back to, I'll warn you. You can answer an age-old thing that in my mind, anybody who's listening to me knows that I'm a complete idiot. Anybody who's been close to me could go into detail. But I've always thought to myself, if God had gifted me playing talent, I shan't name, but there are two teams I'd never play for. And I always said as well, if I was a big star at a club and they wanted to me wear a round neck strip, I'd say, no, I'm not wearing that. When you support a club, which you did,
yeah,
you support, I can say it, it'll come, Dundee United. So you grew up.
Yeah.
Is there ever a doubt in your head when Aberdeen come knocking? Because I've always thought that for me, I'd be like, not that lot, whichever.
Yeah, nah, not really. Not because of the rivalry or that, more because of when I was a kid, I supported Dundee United. Like, I went to watch reserve games with my old man. I went to watch the first team. I started going on my own to watch the first team. And I was training with Dundee United, Celtic, and Aberdeen. I was like, there's one other. It was Aberdeen, obvious one. Yeah, that was the fourth one. So then Dundee would have signed me, United would have signed me, and Aberdeen would have signed me. And I would have signed for United in a minute because I was a Dundee boy. But my dad, he thought it was better to go out the city and be away.
For independence? Or?
And a little bit of like distractions and stuff like that. Like all your mates are in Dundee, so the distractions are gone if you come and live in Aberdeen. You're in the digs every night, not doing anything, relaxing.
Unless I misjudge, and this is cheeky because your dad probably knows you better than me, but you've never struck me, even as a young player, somebody who'd been massively taken away by just, let's say you've signed for United.
Yeah.
You've got your eyes on the prize. I've felt like you always did.
Yeah, I don't think that would have happened, and he never says you have to sign here or there. He's never been like that. But it was more, I think, what could happen. I don't know why, but I think he was right. But like I say, he never railroaded me into saying you have to do this, this or this. I don't think Dundee United was right.
What was the process of joining Aberdeen back in the day like?
So the training every week in Dundee, in the Dundee branch basically, where the manager would come. So Drew, Willie, Jockey Scott, Alex Smith, they would drive from Aberdeen as the first team staff to coach a group of 12 to 16-year-old Dundonians at Riverside on the gravel. So the dedication that they were putting into that recruitment of young players and drive for young players was huge. So it was who's doing it the best, who's going to give you the best opportunity. There was young players in the Aberdeen team that, as a young player as well, I could see there's an opportunity to get in the team if you're good enough. There was at United as well, which was a lure, but I just felt it was Dundee United or Aberdeen for me. And I just thought there's a staff in this club that has a drive to put young players in their team if they're good enough.
A lot of people listening to this won't know what you've mentioned there when you said on the gravel.
Yeah, that's true.
Have a shot at it, because genuinely, a lot of them won't have a Scooby.
Well, anybody that's ever been to Pittodrie, it's the car park that's outside. It's like that. So that's what the gravel is. It's basically stone. It's orange stone. That's
like Dove soap, kind to the skin?
No, I can vouch for that. No, like AstroTurf on drugs, probably. It's it's that bad for you. But it's good for you at the same time because it toughens you up, but makes you stay on your feet at the right time.
Does it teach you not to slide tackle, or as growing up as a tough Dundonian, did you go like, bollocks, there's a ball, I'm going in?
Yeah, pretty much. If it's, it probably sorted out who's willing to do what it takes to win games and be a professional, I think. A little bit of that. Maybe they had access to grass pitches and didn't tell us, I don't know. But
aye, there's certain people I know would have done that for sure.
Well, there was a youth team game that we played here at Aberdeen when I was full time, and we got beat 1-0 off Motherwell across the road at what was the Chris Anderson Stadium, and it was in the afternoon, 2 o'clock or whatever, and we're in the showers, and Neil Cooper, that was our youth team coach, came in and says, phone your digs, you're on the way home for your dinner. I was like, what do you mean? You're training in the car park at 5. So
this was Neil Cooper with a blonde hair, or Tatty Cooper?
It was Neil Cooper. I get mixed up with Neil Cooper had played for St Mirren and Aberdeen.
Aye, because they came through, they were just about contemporaries.
Yeah.
One was Neil and one was Neale.
Both called Tatty as far as I know, but not the late Neil Cooper. So that was obviously the Gothenburg great.
See,
not Neil.
you mentioned, one of the people you mentioned coming down to the Riverside to coach you, you referred to him as his first name, and even then I almost saluted, because he's the greatest central defender Britain's ever, made Bobby Moore look like Bobby Ball. But Willie Miller was training, and you pointed with your finger out behind my head, where the Aberdeen car park opposite Pittodrie is red, brutal ash. Mm-hmm. And there's a famous story about the Bayern Munich in 1983. Had been the first German club to appoint a press officer.
Right.
I was an ex-journalist, and he said to him, okay, press officer kind of means a PR as well, and what we want you to do is we've drawn some bunch of numpties from Scotland, Aberdeen or something. Go over there, turn up, see if you can watch them training, go down to their game, and come back and write a big article for the club newspaper that goes out to the fans before the quarter-final of the Cup Winners' Cup. So this bloke, who then became their press officer for 30 years, told me when I was on a training camp with Bayern Munich once, he turned up at the railings there in a pissing rain, and when did we play Bayern Munich? Say March, April, March it would have been. Putting his Fergie's like, who are you? And he explains who he is. Come on in, because he's Bayern Munich, so for Fergie, this is royalty. Come in, watch the game, watch the training, and the boy told me that even in them days, nobody in Munich had ever seen anything like that. Yeah. Freezing cold, horrible, hard slush. It would have ripped your skin to pieces. And Fergie said to him, how long are you here for? So I'm going down to Glasgow to watch a game at Celtic. He said, where's your boarding house? And the boy goes, up at Rosemount or whatever. He says, we'll call by with a team bus at 7:30 and be ready. Fucking team bus goes and picks up the Bayern Munich boy in some guest house up in Kincorth or whatever, drives him down to Parkhead, and then we pump them and put him out of the cup. But that still, the fact that was a training facility through your time, it beggars belief. Yeah, it's actually not that bad, I guess if it rains and that, it's a bit soft. It's all right. Are you the guy who worked in Atlanta? Are you the guy who's forefront of technology? It's not that bad. If you can play on there, you're all right. So I don't think there's a bit of that as well, maybe. If you can come through this, you can come through anything. Probably, yeah. It's. You mentioned, we were talking before, like about the academy stuff, it's all a little bit soft at times, but there was no softness about what was happening here. And I think the same, every Scottish club probably as well, but I was talking to Gordon Marshall before we came down about people getting made to run when you weren't training right and stuff like that, and that used to happen to us. Like, we'd drive to Seaton on the minibus, and you're not training right, you get a couple of warnings, whatever, and then Neil Cooper, get the gear on the bus. And then put the gear on the bus, training's finished earlier than it should have, and you go to get on the bus, and no politely saying, where are you going? I'm getting on the bus. No, you run back. So you're running back along the golf course and right along, just because you didn't train right. That's probably, have we, in general across football, not referring to Aberdeen, have we lost something when we lost a bit of that? Through this series, this is a theme. So for example, not speaking out of class, but for example, Duffer told us about one of the managers who signed you. I don't know how to hide this. His name rhymes with Ruud Gullit. At Blackburn, right, where they've been training, and the apprentices have been sent in to tidy up and whatever, and they'd scrub the showers to sparkle or whatever. And the manager came in, took a look, and took a leak. Do it again. So there's all kinds of extremes. And Paul Scholes in literature about the class of '92 talks about them being bundled into a tumble dryer.
That's extreme, yeah.
So if we leave extremes out, across the generations, have we lost something about how to make younger players not just better, cleverer, but tougher?
So you know something? I think so, but you sound like a dinosaur when you talk like that as well. Do you know? So it's not something I like comparing, because maybe if we didn't do that, we might have been even better. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, and I don't think we'll ever know either. No, and I think society changes anyway. So
there has been societal changes. Yeah, so people aren't necessarily quite as driven.
Yeah, and there's a more of a throwaway culture with everything these days as well, and it's a lot nicer, I'd say. But there's a lot nicer and there's a lot worse, because the social media stuff, you get berated for anything. But
that to separate it out from the difficult area we were talking about, that's not positive in any way. Whereas
there's extremes here and
the difficult thing we're talking about disciplinarians or toughness or punishments, it could go either way. It could be positive, but that shit on social media is not.
I think there's extremes even within it though. Like, we used to get it here, you had to do the jobs on a Friday when we were still 16, 17 playing boys club in Dundee. You'd get the train at the back of 1 on a Friday, and some weeks when the manager or Neil Cooper had probably a bad week, bad day, whatever, the similar sort of thing. They weren't doing the thing on the restroom floor, but it was, they'll come in and they'll check something, they'll look in the mirror, that's not clean, I'll come back in half an hour, and they know you had to catch the bus in 20 minutes. So stuff like that, but it's just to annoy young ones.
But it's an incentive
to do things right.
Exactly.
Yeah, so don't give them the opportunity to be like that to you.
And some people would have copped on to that.
Yeah, I get it done right, and then you start managing.
But it becomes a dictum in your life. I mean, whether it's a pass, or cleaning dressing room, or arriving on time for the bus or whatever, it becomes a thread in your life.
And you've had managers say that as well. How can I trust you to mark this guy when I can't trust you to hoover the floor? Like stuff like that. There's a discipline side that you can be extreme with, but it's how do you instill it in people? There's a different way of doing it now is probably the way to answer it.
Well, on the theme of discipline, there's nothing more discipline than, is it AC9, the undercover or the cops that investigate cops and line of duty.
Yeah.
Now, a fellow trainee here who also lived at Grey Western Road, Martin Compson.
Yeah.
He contacted me one day listening to a very early episode of this and became a guest on it. Said, this has reminded me of running along the Great Western Road or whatever. I don't know if you were contemporaries, but he lived that life of Drew is the guy who eventually said, "We man, you're too wee," or whatever.
Yeah. But their job was to get young players in the first team, so they weren't doing it out of not badness, almost it's the wrong word, but they felt that was the best way to get players in the team because their job depended on it. So they were doing everything for your benefit. Mm-hmm. And again, it takes one person to say that's not right, and especially nowadays, there's an investigation, there's all sorts, because one person, when there's people that are driven to make first team players. You're just speaking of Barry Robson, he's absolutely driven to make first team players here.
Can see that.
Yeah, loves the boys that he works with. And I'm sure there's people that think Barry's really strong, but Barry's job is to help make first team players.
And the recent example, we've just been joking about it out there, is that when his lads, a couple of whom are 15, 16, are playing against grown men, which is the story you get from everybody. I mean, I've been fortunate in my life from Messi and Lampard, Zico, it doesn't matter. Many of them, not all of them, will say, I played with people who are 5 or 6 years older than me, and sometimes 6 or 7 inches older. And you learn what to do, how to avoid a tackle,
Yeah.
when not to take the piss,
Yeah.
but also learning to cope with somebody giving you a few.
Yeah, well, we've kind of done it. We're doing it a little bit here as well, because even like today, we wanted to get the boys after international break getting used to being in an 11v11 environment. So we've done it before where we bring Barry's team or a group of and play the first team. But today it felt like it's not our team because there's a few internationals away and stuff like that. So there was no point playing the first team against the young ones. So we mixed them. And it used to happen here when I was a young player. Like on a Monday, it used to be 7-a-side every Monday pretty much. 2 pitches mixed with the first team. I'm 16, 17, playing with Lee Richardson, Paul Kane, McKimmie, like McLeish at the time, Jim Bett.
Top footballers.
Yeah, and you're 16-year-old and you're learning how to be a player. And you're learning how you need to work, or you're getting told, and there's ways of doing it, and I think that our environment helps Barry, but Barry's environment helps us as well. So,
I said to you recently that it's a shame, but one of my dad's afflictions is that he has an Alzheimer's problem about remembering things in a certain span. But one of the things that gives me great joy, I mean, unbelievable joy. You clicked, you understood, but I mean, I'm beaming now talking about it. If I say, "Who's Aberdeen's man?" He figures. He goes, sometimes he played in the left. Good player. Stephen Clark. And
you remember that wrong as a good player, didn't he?
No, he didn't. But to make an impact like that, I think tells those who didn't have the good fortune of seeing you at Newcastle or Watford or Hibs, Aberdeen most importantly, what a super footballer that you were. But in those 7-a-sides or that environment, training with whether it be Bet or Rico or Big Scooby, Big McLeish, who were the ones that influenced you, that either you picked things from or you went, no, I'm not going to be like... What was the melange of things that were going on in your head as you watched it and participated?
Firstly, trying to make sure that you weren't getting told off, so you worked hard enough was number one. Guys like, honestly, he wasn't a popular guy here, but Paul Kane, he was a pure professional. Wasn't popular, but brilliant with the young players. So training habits, helping you, on your case at the right time. Guys like Jim Bett, all of them. There was unbelievable top pros.
Jim was underestimated. I think the public, and it's a message that you often hear about. I interviewed somebody recently who compared himself, who talked about Ray Wilkins, for example, and said, look, when you do things that are tidy or that are ordered, but allow better players to have the ball at the right time, some of the public don't see it. And I think with Jim, he's one of the players that when fellow pros talk to me about him, the difference between what fellow pros say about Jim Bett and what the public said about Jim Bett is a chasm. Yeah,
well, he didn't play for the clubs he played for, being average. You know, he's a top player. But even guys like McKimmie looked after me, Brian Grant, all the younger players that had just been through the same process. And then probably towards the latter stage of that, I was lucky Roy Aitken came in and played reserves as well, when I was kind of right between reserves, first team. And he came and he played reserves and he looked after the young players in the reserves as well. Then became the manager. I don't know if he was here for that reason, that it was I don't know the word again, a succession planning almost, that was kind of in the back of the mind of the people at the club. But he became the manager and he cared about his players, he wanted to win. So I was lucky. The senior players that I got to play with, I was lucky. And I think it's no coincidence, I'm in the line now as well, but that many players came through this club and became managers.
Let me turn you into a psychologist if you want to play ball a little bit.
Okay, go on.
I was already nearly, I was certainly living away in Glasgow by the end of that season where Roy has taken over as a manager. And really, for only one of 2 times in the club's entire history, never having been relegated, it might happen. In fact, there would have been stages when possibly
more probable,
we're odds on. Now, you scored the goals towards the end of the season and in the playoffs. But I remember coming up and I said to my bosses, and I'm not working that day, I'm going to Pittodrie, I'm going as a fan. And it had been a long time since there was an atmosphere like that. The place was full, but it was noisy, everybody felt united. But by failure, in inverted commas, that's what I'm asking about the psychology, because even at the time, not just retrospectively, I was like, what is it about folk, or maybe Aberdeen folk, whereby we should be this rampant about standards and winning every day and grinding out results. But it took crisis to and it was, Pittodrie was explosive, and the away support in playoff. I'm speaking.
Yeah,
you've got your own view about that. What do you think about those days and that phenomenon that I'm talking about?
In general, in terms of that phenomenon, I think you see other clubs that do go down, and then they start winning every week in the championship, and they come back up, and it kind of grows and snowballs. So it's almost sometimes a step back to go forward. You don't want to take that step back, though. Within that season, I think there was there's poor performances, there's a bit of apathy, and then there's the future of the club's pretty much on the line. So then people start rallying. The club needs the support at that time, and it just felt like there became a cause, probably, and you see how much it means to people when that starts happening. And I think it was the Dundee United game here was the biggest one. As a sub, and I can't even remember, I don't think it got on. But the atmosphere that day, I got asked about it recently actually, that I think that somebody said to me the first throw-in was celebrated like it was a goal. And it was like that sort of atmosphere that's intense and it's like intimidating for other teams. And you want to bottle that up and keep it. So that happened. You beat United here, played Falkirk away. I think I don't know if I remember right, but I think we couldn't get relegated then, Falkirk away. We could possibly avoid the playoff. That might have been why Roy put me in the team. So young player started the way at Falkirk, because the first game had started for a wee while, and I scored and made the other goal. And then first playoff game against Dunfermline at home, I'm in the team. So you just 18 I think.
Did it feel like a lot of responsibility, or did it feel like, no, I'm made for this?
And neither really. It's just go and play.
Really, that's simple.
Yeah. Just that's you don't realise the size of the games, and I kind of see Calvin Ramsey just now just playing, and it's like I don't think you realise the size of the games when you're that age. People can tell you, but it's almost something you don't know until you've been through it. I think that it comes with experience, the knowledge of what big games mean, which is a problem probably. Because
then it begins to weigh sometimes.
Yeah, or you can build it up to mean too much, and then you don't perform. But
now you're not going to like this, because we're going to come back to Aberdeen a lot. But I know you're not going to like this, but I have to ask this because I love mythical players.
Right.
And you were beginning to be a real star for Newcastle and loved for Newcastle in the early days of Gullit. And there's a boy in the Independent quoted Bobby Moncur. Bobby Moncur, a Scot, very good footballer, international footballer, legendary, and the last captain to lift any silverware for Newcastle, which was in about 68, 69. I'm sorry about this, and you probably know what's coming, but Bobby Moncur, talking about you, says, to me, he has all the makings of another Tony Green. Now, Tony Green was a Scot at Newcastle who carries fucking Maradona comparisons. You say that to a Geordie of any age, and they're tearful and they're lustful and they're Tony Green. Played about 33 games. Fucking that was a comparison. I know you probably didn't see Tony Green playing.
I didn't, no, but I know the name and I know the stories.
What kind of football were you playing to make that comparison from Bobby Moncur, who's not somebody who chucks away compliments loosely either?
Yeah, I don't know. I was just doing what I thought I was good at the time. I just loved playing football when I did at the time. And it was
did you fitted in the culture or Gullit's ideas, or maybe did you stand out because you were left-footed, which still for some people makes a footballer stand out? Yeah,
maybe. Specifically about Newcastle, and I think it goes for most clubs, to be fair, and I've been lucky to play at clubs that are similar ilk right through my career, I think. Obviously, so Aberdeen, Newcastle, Watford, Hibs, clubs that are traditionally footballing clubs. So I've almost accidentally found my way there, fortunately and accidentally. But I think, I don't know, it's just, I think I fitted at Newcastle. I think those fans of those clubs like people that try and that work and that look like they're doing their best. And for good or bad, I did that.
See, I knew you'd shrug it off, but for me, When I watched you play here, like there were times when the ball seemed to glide, where you seemed to glide, where you did things with the ball that might be ordinary to you. I'm not saying Jinky Johnson, but I'm saying there was an elegance, there was a clarity, there was you had good peripheral vision, you used the ball well, there was you were moving all the time. It just stood out even then, before we had maybe a slight decline in Scotland of how often we produced players like that. That was something that, I mean, you can't, particularly if you're a regional club without a big budget, you can't expect to see players like that all the time. Yeah. Even then I knew that, you know, this is a bit special. You must be aware of having an effect like that on spectators across your life. No?
At times, especially when I was younger, I think you could feel an atmosphere lifting at times. But I don't know, as you get older, you see other people making the crowd react a bit more. And then you maybe not became the player he should have been, or the other players better than you, that sort of thing. I don't know.
Well, I need to follow up, because we've got lots of people who've been with us all our existence.
Right.
And they send in questions. So Edward Hislop, I'm coming back to Robert McIntosh, who says, fabulous choice of guest. Edward Hislop says, having played a prominent role in helping the Dons escape a first ever relegation in '95, can you ask what Stephen feels were the turning points, contributory factors in that remarkable campaign? I'm thinking primarily of the 5 wins and the bounce to finish the season. Thank you and best of luck, Stephen.
Oh, nice. Thanks, yeah. So the turning point, and I can't remember, again, it was that long ago, the order, but I think everybody recognises the Hearts away game, and I think United got beat the same day, and I'm pretty sure Dodgy scored a penalty. I think we're getting beat 1-0, end up winning 2-1, and against another one, I think it was either came on late or didn't even get on. But being part of that atmosphere was pretty incredible, and seeing what it takes to win at Tynecastle now as well, and when again the future of the club's on the line, and players like Dodgy scoring penalties and like huge penalties games like that. That was probably the biggest turning point, and then obviously United at home, where I think loser gets relegated basically, was the day.
I know during the game or bench or playing, you can't have time for, you know, feelings.
Yeah.
But that it's United that's suffering at the hands of our resurgence. That has to cause a few pangs?
No.
Nothing?
Nothing, no.
That's me told.
Yeah, no, zero.
So being a supporter of a club, when you sign for another club, just disappears?
To me it does. And I don't know if that's having been played in Scotland and you hear people looking for the Celtic and Rangers result. Mm-hmm. I don't know if everybody could say the same thing. But no, I couldn't care less about other clubs when I'm here at Aberdeen. I couldn't care less.
Is that inbuilt, taught from your parents? Where does that?
I think it might be. It's a loyalty to the people that are paying you, and I think it's a professionalism. It might be the grounding at Aberdeen again, and I think Aberdeen wouldn't expect anything different that when I was playing for Hibs. Aberdeen are more important. Yeah, it's you like them to win, but at that point in my life, I want Hibs to win. And so but there's more feeling when you come back to a club where it started.
Robert McIntosh, coming back to him, fabulous choice of guest, and not just because he's a dandy, but because Stephen strikes me as a really interesting voice on football, something that we second.
Right.
Listen, you had to know when you were signing up for this, so there'd be quite a lot of praise. We don't sign up for people that we don't impress us.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
I would get ready for there'll be more. Question from Robert. Do younger players respond differently to being coached in the US and in Scotland? We've been working hard nationally to improve standards, focus on skills, etc. But for every Billy Gilmore, there are many games from the top flight down where there isn't actually much football played. I'd be interested to hear what Stephen has to say about the mindset of those who are making their way in the game from your quite disparate experiences.
On both sides, basically, yeah. Probably the easiest and most obvious to me is there's a lack of fear of failure in the States. There's a drive for success rather than scared of what's happening if you don't succeed, because there's no relegation. So it's probably easier to produce players, but the spectacle itself is not as real as it is here, where livelihoods are on the line, clubs' futures are on the line. People are desperate for your team to win every week. It's more real, you know. So it's that's the difference, I think. The lack of fear of failure.
Does America, and it's a continent, not a country, and 270 million people, and a mix of vegetable soup of cultures. But in the States, we are taught, and I've been there a few times, both for work and pleasure. We're taught that there's a can-do mentality, there's a try yourself, have a shot mentality, as well as there being no relegation. Is that a factor in what you're describing? Yeah,
probably. I think everybody thinks, and it's the truth, anything's possible, but everybody thinks that. There's nobody thinks Graham Hunter's a better journalist than me, that I'm a better player or manager than them. They all think they're the best. And in Scotland, I think everybody's the opposite. You put everybody above you. He's better than me, he's better than me, at whatever job. And I think there's that in the culture as well. And I don't know if it's a contributing factor or not, but there's definitely that mindset change where people put people on a pedestal here, and in America, people consider that they are capable of, in their field, being the best.
It's a hell of a culture to grow up in, because I think if you've got anything about you, it liberates you, because we'll come to talk about it, but there's fear of failure. What's the definition of a brave player on the pitch? I can't speak for you, but my generation, we were always taught that bravery was something physical, whereas bravery is like how you show for the ball, what you're willing to do when the crowd have grown twice, when there's not a feeling of elevation, as you said, and you're like, oh fuck, I tell you what, I'm going to look as if I'm, don't really want it, and you know that. I suspect that can-do attitude informs your decisions in when you want the ball and what you do with the ball too.
Yeah, there can be a falseness within that as well, though. I think that that people can falsely think I can be the best, and there's a bit of bravado that's not real. And I think there's a balance between the two to be had. And I think having seen both sides, I think it makes me more balanced. That I've seen. A culture that there's a real can-do, and there's a culture that does put people on a pedestal and says they're better than me, and I think the balance has to be had.
We spoke in this series to Robbie Keane, who'd been maybe something akin to Scott Brown here, in that he was a senior player there towards the end of his career, but he was also very much involved with standards and culture and training ground. And he said, listen, there was a lot of people in that team who were like, well, if we've lost today, there's still time to be down the beach and surfing. And it fucking drove him completely nuts. Now, Atlanta and LA are two different countries, never mind two different cities. But did you encounter any of that, or is that even a theme that you just recognise from some parts of the States?
In the lower level of football, I'd say there was more of it, less concerned about the results. And I'm saying less concerned. When people are playing, they want to win. But how much it actually affects the rest of their life was different. Whereas, if you have a bad training session, you go home and you're not happy.
We wear it like a jacket of nettles, don't we?
Yeah. If you hit one bad pass in training, it's in your head, like, why did I hit that pass today? I hit his wrong foot, and the importance you place on things. And I think there's less of that, whereas you try to drive that here, and I think it's in people here anyway, because they want to not make mistakes. So it concerns them when they've made mistakes.
That fits nicely into the last of our socio questions, which is from Finlay MacDonald. Having played north and south of the border and coached in the States, what are the main differences in style of play, and how has Scottish football changed since your playing days? Finlay says, is the standard better or worse or just different? Finlay says, my gut feeling is that the standard is lower, but he says that might just be nostalgia.
Probably, yeah. I think seeing what the players do in training these days physically is incredible. More so in England, but here as well. To the extent, like the physique and size and shape I am, I'm not sure how far I would have got, because everybody's bigger, stronger, quicker. Maybe I'm being Scottish negative again, but...
Well, isn't there... I mean, yeah, I'm such an idiot, I'm sorry. I'm interrupting the person who's important here. But truthfully, and I'm not named... Pep Guardiola said that about himself. He said, you know, if I've been... And then he went out and played Busquets all the time. And Silva played for the national team in City. And so I'm not sure. I think the things you had, touch, technique, passing, vision, work rate...
Yeah.
That conquers.
Yeah, so it's hard. Yeah, I don't know. The game's different. It changes every generation probably, as well. So it gets quicker. There's more awareness of what other teams are doing, what everybody's doing. The game's on the telly every night, so people see stuff. So you can almost get fooled into thinking teams are better than they are at times as well. You get snippets of teams showing the best bits of them. No propaganda, but you get fed, how good is this team, how good is that player?
Because when we were younger, with different ages, but we would have to watch all of a game because there was no YouTube, there was no software. Yeah. So you were either watching, say, 30 minutes of highlights, and it was made to look like a game, or we were watching 90 minutes rather than a show. Yeah. YouTube's full of show reels. Yeah. I see what you mean. I never thought of it like that. And that it can hypnotise you a little bit. Yeah.
Or teams say, oh, this team presses all the time, and they show you 3 clips of them pressing, and you don't know if the rest of the game they just sat in. But people have got a way of hyping up what they do, I think.
What do you use? How do you use analysis? How much information is too much now that you're a coach?
For our game prep and that, you mean? Or?
For your weekly life, for your game prep, for maybe not for analysing a signing because you've got more time to think about that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I guess I mean for analysing your own training performances and analysing rivals. Because there seems to me there's a typhoon of information. Yeah. And how to be... We spoke recently to Dean Smith, and Dean's point of view at Aston Villa, and different strokes for different strokes, I can't have too much information. Give me everything. Give me different voices in my coaching staff. Yeah. And I know that's working from look at Villa. Yeah. But you could be submerged.
I bet that though he said it's up to him how he deciphers that information.
100%.
That's the biggest thing. You can have as much or as little as you want, but you have to decipher it yourself. And I think when it comes to it, the biggest important bit is how you judge things that are happening live from pitch level on a Saturday. Because if you can't do that, you can prepare all week, and then when things change on a Saturday, and it's your eyes at the side of the pitch or the people that you're trusting right beside you, that's huge. And I think that can get lost, the importance of that.
So you must never cede the responsibility for decision maker interpretation, what the data or the footage is showing you. Yeah. You must always place your own, because then you have to do that live too.
Yeah, I believe so. And even with the analysis as well, we choose what bits we want to see, how much relevance we give to the other team, what they're going to do, how can they change within their shape and stuff. And it doesn't really change a lot of the principles of how you work anyway. So, and I had to watch a thing for the CPD, the pro licence, and I saw Mourinho, and he believes in himself. So, he rightly so.
That's a euphemism.
Yeah, but rightly so. But because he was talking about analysing other teams. How much time are you going to spend analysing another team? And this is not me, this is him. Yeah. He said, when they play against me and my team, they change. So he can watch 100 games of the other team, but in his opinion, they'll change for his team. So the analysis of what they've done in the past is almost irrelevant.
I see the point.
Yeah. So they can change on the fly, so he has to be able to change in the game. Mm-hmm. Plus the principles of how you work week to week, day to day, form the biggest importance.
It's something that's really clear about what you like to have your ear at the ground, and watching the Dandies is the world to me. When I hear people talking about what they see since you've arrived, there's a widespread impression that we are, as an organisation, tactically acute. Right. That if a team or a match, because a match has got a personality too, is causing you a problem, then you're sharp to see solutions. They may not always work because
of course,
there's so many moving parts in the solution.
Yeah.
But you read well, you interpret well, and you seem to not, you're not risk averse. You're like, no, if I see it, we'll have a shot at it.
Yeah.
How much of that reflects what you think you're like?
My wife would tell you different because I don't make decisions as quick. I'm actually, we're in a new house and we've not got a TV yet because I can't decide which TV to buy. So she's like, how can you do that here? And
I don't often let guests edit that, but that can come out later. Well, that's too much detail. No, I don't believe that.
That's true. It's true. Like, I'm indecisive, but with football, I'm not. And I don't know why. I'm probably not good at anything else. I don't know. But
do you read games? Do you feel like you read games well?
I think so. Yeah. And I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I think one of my strengths is that I can see things on a pitch. You've got to decide when you make changes, but if you go too quick, that lets them change. So if you're a little bit more patient, you see their sub getting ready, hold back. What are they doing? Are they going to change? Are they going to do the same but just freshen it up? And then, right, we've seen what we can change and we're going to do it. Or at half time, we've done it a couple of times at half time because it needed to change. Now, they don't know what you're going to do at half time because they don't know until the team walks out on the pitch, so they can't change, and they've just told their team how to counteract.
Not to throw away Mourinho's point, the more you study other sides, the more you're like, you can. I know what he's going to do here. I've seen that
players.
2-3 weeks ago. I think you can.
You can predict. Yeah, they've also only got the players they've got who do the things they do. So it's no. There's not a countless number of options for them. So you can plan, but I think your principles are the ones that are right for you. How do you defend? How do you attack? When do you press? When do you not? Because everybody wants to say they're a pressing team, and there's a time and a place.
That's twice used phrase. Everyone, they say they press all the time.
Yeah.
What you've clearly got a very strong view about pressing in general. How easy it is to achieve, how well people do it, where it can let you down if you.
Yeah.
Stephen, let's talk pressing.
Ask me a question.
I like that. That's what I would say if I was sitting there. I wouldn't give anybody an easy. You're patently a fan. You patently believe that if pressing is used correctly, you can A, make opposition surrender the ball in areas they don't want to, and B, give your players the chance of doing damage easily because they're higher up the pitch.
Yeah.
Do you have negative thoughts about pressing? Is it more difficult to execute properly than we, the fans and the media, think?
Physically, yes. Because I don't think you can go and press for 90 minutes. So you have to be aware of what times you don't press, who you don't press, where you don't press. When your team's disjointed, you don't press. But I've referred to other people's thoughts at times as well, but I think everybody wants to tell you my team goes and presses. They do. I bet everybody you've interviewed says it. It's like my team, It's
interesting.
Yeah.
It's a subject that is far more in vogue in the last 10 years than it used to be, because people didn't talk about it when Lippi's Juventus had, Lombardo and Vialli and Ravanelli up front, and it was 4-3-3, because in the 90s then, when Lippi played 4-3-3, people were like, it's a tridente, and it's just good players, and nobody said, look what they do.
Yeah, it's labelled, isn't it? It's been labelled, I think. Because I think you're an Aberdeen fan, and before me, the European nights that they won here.
Watershy would probably be the number one in the semi-final of the Cup Winners' Cup, where the poor old Belgians didn't know if they were fucking footballers or koala bears.
Yeah, but you've got Simi and Cooper in the middle of the pitch, and you want to say they weren't pressing at the time.
Dougie Bell?
Yeah, Strachan, Weir, and all these boys are aggressive types, aggressive players. It wasn't labelled high pressure at the time.
No.
And the manager wasn't out there saying, we go in high press. That's what I don't like, coming out and putting labels on stuff that we do. I don't like it.
So it's both the terminology and the use of the terminology that chafes with you. You have to call, if you're asking people to do something, you have to give it a name. No?
Nah, I don't think so. I don't think it's part of your system almost. I say it's not. What I'd say, I think people. This is two different things that don't make sense. They both cling to it and they hide behind it. So if you come and say my team goes and presses high all the time, no, they don't. I'll tell you for a fact they don't. I'll show you a clip where they don't. But if you keep telling people my team does this and this and this, people believe you.
Okay, theologically then in that case, because you were in the States, as much as you enjoyed Barcelona's football at the time, I have no idea, and we haven't talked about this, whether you had time to study what Pep was doing as a junior coach. And Pep's rule was 4 or 5 seconds of extreme press, out of your traps, unlike what you said, all the time, everywhere, but then retrench, which fits jigsaws with what you were saying. You're like, okay, we can't do that all the time.
Yeah, but people take bits of that and then they think you can just press for 90 minutes and you can't.
No.
And I bet it wasn't every single time that they went for 4 or 5 seconds. I bet they didn't.
Couldn't, okay.
The idea of it is, I want you to, but when the first guy doesn't do it, the rest don't go. So they didn't do it every single time. But I think it's important you show players and options of if he goes, this is where you go. If he doesn't go and he goes, here's where you go. And I was lucky that, you'll know, Tata Martino was the manager at Atlanta. And I was in the academy working with the 17s, and we get to watch him coaching his team every day. And he was brilliant. Explain
a little bit about him. I'll let people know that he was a very famous player at Boca Juniors, a midfield player who tried to control and use the ball, not like Xavi, not like Guardiola. I'm struggling to find a good comparison, but he was a ball player, and he was part of a good Boca side. When he was so in love with Barcelona that he took his son across the ocean to Barcelona, and while he was Boca manager, and snuck in and paid his thing and went through the museum because he had one season at the club where all they won was the Super Cup, and didn't enjoy himself. But you could see he was successful. He made Atlanta champions of MLS.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about watching him and what kind of coaching made him make Atlanta champions.
I think he's just he had good players, but he was very thorough in, like I say, the options of when we press, we go like this. And if it's not Graham that goes first as the centre forward, this guy goes. If this guy doesn't go, the centre midfield player can go. And then what happens off the back of all of that? Honestly, the best thing about him, he did a presentation for us, all the coaches at the club. And someone like that, there's people, and I'm saying again, there's people that want to tell you how to do it, and this is how you work, and this is me, this is how it would be great. He came in to a group of academy and reserve coaches and said, this is the presentation, this is what we're going to do, I'm going to show you this. This is the way I work, this is not the way to work. These are options. And this is a guy that's managed Barcelona, and he's now managing the first team at Atlanta when I was there, winning every week. And he's saying, if you like it, you can try some of this, but not, you have to do this.
Okay.
And I think that's the difference with someone that's humble, that is good at their job, that they like the way they work. And he's almost apologetic that he's been asked by the sporting director to do a presentation for the academy coaches, as if he's telling you what to do. So I think there's a bit of that where I don't think you should be telling people this is how you should work, this is the way to do it.
So you said instead of a term to encompass an idea, you talked about maybe a strategy, a philosophy, a way to play, a system, might be a better word. You like pressure in the right way, but what I've heard is you talking about if you teach people well enough about if it's this situation, this is what we do. If he does go, this is what you do. If he doesn't go, this is what you do. So you're trying to ingrain it in them. Spanish football people use the word automatismos, things that become automatic. So you don't have to think about doing the right things. You're thinking about maybe doing the clever, creative things because they become automatic.
Yeah.
Would that be things you're aiming for as a coach?
Yeah. So they're general habits of, like you said, the 4 or 5 second thing. Again, it's kind of labelled, but it's like as soon as you lose it, can you win it back? If you can't, what do you do? They've got to know what the options are. It's not you tell people you have to win it back in 5 seconds and they don't, and then they're like, what do we do now? They have to know what the options are, or even every time we press, this team are knocking it past us. Is it still right to go and press then? I don't think so. So,
but you also have to learn, I mean, obviously you're relatively early in your coaching career, but you have to learn.
Which is why I'm not comfortable telling people that, you know what I mean? Because it's in me.
Okay. But like, you're a communicator, you're confident, you're learning presumably, if you want them to have this array of skills in their head, and if B then C, if Y then X, you have to work out how quickly individual people take on concepts or retain them, or maybe they can take them on and retain them but not apply them, or they can apply them at home against Falkirk, but they're fucked if it's the cup final at Hampden against you know who. So evaluating all of that is a hard piece of your job, I think.
Yeah, it's probably the hardest bit, is getting all the information in quick. But I think having been like coaching youth teams and stuff, coaching kids then youth teams, where you're coaching 3-4 teams a night, all that stuff, so you're problem solving constant. And then
this is Atlanta.
Even before Atlanta, just coaching.
Shamrock or
in North Carolina, coaching within youth clubs, when you've got 4 teams to coach, and you don't know how big an area of the pitch you're getting. You got a quarter of the pitch, or you manage to get the 2 quarters at the end, which happens to have the goal in it if you negotiate hard enough. Then you're there early enough.
That's problem solving.
Yeah. So all that stuff, and then even then, the highest part of problem solving, being a reserve manager, that you're speaking to Barry, similar stuff. You're playing this team, but I'm not giving you these players, or I'm giving you these players, and then the day before the game you say, actually, you're not getting the players. Now you have to get the information into those players. So I've just had a couple of years worth of planning for something, and then the rug gets pulled and you have to plan again and get information into players less than a day's notice. And nobody cares that come to watch the game. They just care about what they see. So you have to get the information in.
I think that has to be, apart from frustrating, has to be part of the addictive nature.
Yeah.
Because we all like to be told you're on a tightrope. Because if you're if a confident person, you're like, aye, throw anything at me. I can cope. Yeah. But it makes you fail or win with the challenges that nobody else cares about. Yeah. It's what keeps bringing you back the next day.
Yeah, that definite. Yeah. Even honestly, training sessions in Atlanta was like Frank would come and take 5 players off us to bore, and then you've got 12 instead of 17, which is an odd number anyway, whatever, but different numbers. Or they'll send you players, and then they've got to play, and they've got to play for 60 minutes, he's 30 minutes, he's 45 minutes. And you've only got
some people would say, well, bollocks, I'm not making a plan, I'm just going to throw it all together and make it as a goal. And some people would, because if anybody sits and listens slowly to what you've just said, you're like, what's the point of having... But instead what you do is you learn to interpret and react and roll with the punches, and maybe have 6 or 7 plans quietly in your head for if this happens then.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so then in games now, you've got that in your head as well, like what your subs look like and things like that.
I think we've come full circle to what people say to me, they see in you, about he's always got a solution, he's always got a dance with this and in that case. Our sponsors are Bet365. In 1999, Stephen came on as a sub in the FA Cup final against Manchester United. That United team went on to win the treble that season. You played against them a couple of times. I think you equalised a Beckham goal for Newcastle, and of course it was Sir Alex Ferguson that day and winning the treble too. They say, was that the best side you ever played against?
Probably. Yeah, probably. But
what stood out about them?
The fact that everybody told you they were good. They won the treble. Honestly, again, at that point in my life, I'm at Newcastle United and I don't care about Manchester United. So, so probably the best team I played against, probably. But because of when you think back, they won the treble, they had all those superstars. But honestly, at the time, I couldn't care less.
Fergie, lifting there and bollocks.
Nah, yeah.
See, what strikes me, I was there that day, what strikes me watching them was they had solutions too. And I thought so all season, because, they had a game against Inter at Old Trafford where they cleared off the line and won a pitched battle.
Yeah.
Against Juventus, they were pumped at home. Pumped. Conte scored early and then he scored in the 172nd minute. United with I think maybe a Giggs header. Away at Juventus, it's one of the great games I've ever been at. Astonishing. The Juventus fans who'd been throwing bottles of piss and coins at us applauded them off at the end. You're like, how have you made them?
Yeah.
But they were like that day. They had pretty sure Keane went off injured
in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, Speedo done his ankle early.
And they were like, they didn't blink. And I thought they were ferociously tough, sportingly aggressive. They were fun to watch. Whether they're better than any other team or best ever, nor do I really care, but fuck me, they were impressive.
Yeah, they were good. They were good. But, yeah.
I think you've made your point. Newcastle.
At that time, yeah.
Ruud Gullit, what kind of character was he like to work for? He gave you a lot more playing time than Sir Bobby.
I liked him. The senior players didn't. He rubbed the senior players up the wrong way.
Shearer.
Yeah, which
because of haughtiness, or because you've seen it with Frank as well. The Dutch just say things out it comes. There's no dressing whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I don't mind saying Ruud was a bit of a player in his time.
Yeah.
It was notorious that there was a bit of tension there. And I went up and interviewed Gullit at the time at the training ground, and I'm still fascinated by him because in my lifetime, he's one of the players who, when he won the Ballon d'Or, his best player, I think 90 or 89 maybe, there was a distance between him and everybody else.
Yeah. Actually, I got on all right one, but I turned 23 the day after that cup final. And it was, I think his first game was my debut for Newcastle and I did well, so I think that probably stuck in his head, so I did all right under him. I can see why the senior players didn't greatly take to him, but to me, the manager's the manager and you crack on.
This thing again about, okay, it's not actually his pocket that's paying my wages, but they pay my wages, he's the manager, let's get it on, let's get it done.
The people that are coming to watch you don't care if you like the manager or not. They care if you try to win a game for their club. So, as a professional, you have to crack on.
Did he care much what the senior players thought?
No, I don't think so. Because he, in his mind, he was, I'm the manager, you'll do what I tell you. And at that time, it was a bit of that. And then you're saying that to Alan, and then that is influencing the other senior professionals at the club. And he said one thing at the cup final dinner that we got beat. He actually said we did well to get to the cup final with this team. And even as a young player, I was like, that's a little bit strange. And I don't know if it was because there was
already there was tension.
Yeah, I don't know.
Feels like a misjudgment.
Yeah. Managers choose their words carefully, though, I think. And I think you know what you're saying.
Or if you don't, you're a fool. But why would you? Anyway.
Yeah.
Did you take anything positive from having known him?
Can you
lift? Yeah. I never thought that he was necessarily a particularly good coach. At Chelsea, where he was player coach and he was demonstrating as he went, if I speak to the Chelsea players from Harlington, which I have done, there was a different feel for when he was just a suit and he was a trainer at Newcastle. It was my impression. But of course I wasn't working for him.
Yeah. No, I liked him. There was a lot of, I know it's the Dutch way because I've seen Frank work as well, but there was a lot of 11v11 stuff. Like most days, straight up 11v11.
Rather than say drills to work on an aspect of something that wasn't.
There was less of, honestly, there was less of that anyway than when I was playing. It's funny, Nobby Solano phoned me the other day and he actually said that we were talking about like tactics and things, and he said there was no tactics. There was just a group of good players, and it's not far off.
Really?
Really, aye. It was like, we've got a good group of players, this is the shape, this is them, here's a few of the holes.
Get on with it, lads.
There was a lot of that, yeah.
More enjoyable?
Well, I've not really played under tactical regimes as such, because I'm too old to have kind of seen what's come in. Tony Mowbray came in and was starting to get the first one that really started getting tactical, building towards a Saturday, which I really enjoyed.
Is it Hibs?
Yeah.
So what were the first things that he did with you as a group that you? Because if I'm not wrong, you had Riordan and you presumably had a young Scott Brown.
Yeah.
I don't know if O'Connor was in the scene there.
Gaz
or
was
not.
there as well. We had Riordan, O'Connor,
Whittaker.
Whitty, Kev Thompson, Scott.
Good player, Kev Thompson.
Dave Murphy came. Boozlin, who was brilliant, came. Yeah. Gary Caldwell came. Gary Smith was still a good player.
Gary Caldwell playing out from the back, which is very fashionable now, but probably wasn't called that then.
Yeah, no, it was just guys could pass it. That was it. Yeah. Stevie Fletcher came through.
People like us have fucked it up for everybody with their terminology and making up phrases and stuff like that. Guardiola, Bielsa, idiot, man.
Yeah, but no, it's we had a good team, but Tony found a way to get the best out of that group of players.
So, like, if you could be specific about what began to change, because you said prior to Saturday he was the first one to bring in aspects of strategy, tactics.
Yeah.
What changed?
Starting to drip feed in on a Monday. This is what's happening on Saturday. Before video on that really as well. There's not a lot of video, but you're playing Inverness. He's talking about their back four, how they are. This is how they'll sit. Here's how we score goals. It was all about us. Going to play Celtic, I remember, and he's saying their fullbacks are good on the ball, but we're just going to leave three up the pitch. Let's see how good they are, how brave they are. Because our midfield, I was in the midfield with, I can't even remember, Boozy at the time probably, and when we won it, it's Riordan and it's O'Connor. I think Dean Shields was playing as well. I think we played two wingers and a centre forward. And he said, don't come back, you three up front. Let's see if they commit bodies forward.
These, I know you're paraphrasing, but these sound like nuggets of information which A, are clear, B, easy to remember, and C, they carry a conviction about it. Because even if you're saying this is how we're going to score, deep in the message there is we're going to score.
Yeah, and if you do these things, you can win. You know, like, let's not go there and see if we'll not get beat. If we defend right, there's the spaces, here's how we score goals. And we went to Rangers and won 3-0 twice in a season. We went to Celtic and won 3-1, went to Tynecastle and won. The team was good. We got beat at home, well, I can't even remember, but first game we got beat at home off Kilmarnock, deflected free kick. And normally you're waiting for the manager to go mental, he didn't. He's like, keep playing like that, we'll win plenty.
He was happy with
the performance.
What he'd seen. The result. Never mind, put this result aside. I can see that you were doing it right.
Yeah, he's big on performance level. So you keep that performance level, you're going to win games. Don't panic. See, that's the consistency that you've talked about that builds a relationship. Because you go out and do what he says, you get beat and he hammers you. You're like, did what you asked me? Yeah. And he was good at that. Very good.
A lot of managers don't have the self-possession to do that.
It's the courage of their own convictions as well. Here's how we're going to play. This is us. And we'll trust it. And I think if you keep changing as well, players smell it a mile off. And now you don't know what you're doing.
I often describe, it's a horrible image, but like if you were in a swimming pool full of sharks, a swimming pool, not a sea, tiny drop of blood. I've often said, I think that's what dressing rooms in football are like.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Definitely.
He's bullshitting that.
Definitely.
Then you're done.
100%, yeah. And I think this happens less, I suppose, when you're in a position now. But at Atlanta, a couple of the players probed a little bit, I think, to see if I knew what I was doing, which was all right. And I actually was quite glad they did, because it gave me an opportunity without being, I'm coming in to do this. They poke a little question, try to be smart arse like in a meeting or a video, and straight away you got an answer. It's, what's the problem?
And that spreads through the ranks, like.
Yeah, because the players know as well, or that one's asking a question because he's the one that's going to, and there's wee fractions there anyway, but they would know when he asks a question, it's not for the group. It's to poke the manager and see does.
And look, boys, I've got a manager on my.
Yeah. So it was like, we went through the coaches' room after, and the boys, the staff were like, "What's that question about?" I said, "I know what the question was about. It's all good. I'm glad it came." So it's fine.
I'm gonna screw up here because there's another sponsor's question, Bet365, and so you're allowed to go. Not bollocks.
You're probing me before.
You're allowed to. I was really excited this season, even though I was at Wembley working with Spain, and I wanted them to win, and fucking Italy won on penalties, just like in the under-21s in 1996. But I liked Gianluca Vialli a lot. You worked for him.
Yeah.
Were you pleased at all to see him part of that dugout with Mancini, his buddy from all them years ago, like Glass and Solano? It runs together, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nobby and Stephen. Gianluca and Roberto.
They're a little bit better, yeah.
Well, half
of them were.
Neither of them there can play a trumpet. Like
That's true, Nobby can play.
But, Luke has gone through
His health
2
stuff,
cancer battles, won them, still looks fabulous. And he's there with his pal lifting the... Did you have a warm relationship with him at Watford? What did you think of him? I think as a man, you can't help be impressed with the fella because he's cut from different stuff.
Yeah, I loved him. I actually loved him, yeah. He was a great manager. He was still in the condition that he could play in demo and the stuff you mentioned before with Gullit. Just a great guy, yeah. Really, really good manager. Good people, person. I think he was better than us. Almost too good, probably. Because he did well at Chelsea and stuff. And then came to Watford too, where you're talking about Chelsea and Watford.
I remember people at Chelsea that he fell out with, that fell out with him, talked about him being ultra demanding. Like, so, for example, we'd a lovely big interview with Jody Morris where he said, listen, okay, look, let's just level up here. When Luca was a player, perfection on the pitch and training on that, but Luca was a player. He'd be sitting in his bed, stark bullet naked, we'd be sharing a hotel away on a trip, he'd have a cigar and he'd order a McDonald's and he'd be like, "Mon Jody." But in training, it was like unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then as a coach, one of the things I think that took him a while was he expected everybody to be at it as much as him, and not everybody can reach that. Everybody's got their own levels. Was there any remnants of that at Watford?
No, not overly. But I think one of the issues was he's used to operating at the top level, and then he's dealing with people that are not. So unless your tolerance level is unbelievable, your patience and your pure understanding of people in different walks, then you're going to have a problem. But I think he was an unbelievable manager, a great guy, another great manager that I was lucky to play for. So Ray Wilkins was there with him, what a guy he was. Ray Lewington was there, coach that's been around everywhere.
Still doing a hell of a job.
So even being at Watford at that time, the managers that I got to play for were great, but Vialli was amazing. And I was delighted that he's still here and he's healthy and he's doing what he did.
We wind towards the last section. I'm definitely going to blow my own trumpet because you won't do yours, so to hell. Leaving 1996 Euros, Scotland knocked out by, I think, a goal that Kluivert scores, and I thought, clever Dick. I write a column about Hodgkinson's a good goalkeeper's coach, and I went back to every World Cup that I'd been Scotland or competition that Scotland played in while I was alive. Which the first one that we competed in when I was a kid was 74. And I counted how many times we'd gone out just by a goal or two.
Yeah.
Either by goal difference or when a goal would have meant a draw was a win. And I wrote this big clever Dick column about, it should be a striker's coach. Apparently they exist now and conceptually you've brought one to Pittodrie. Yeah. Tell us about him and tell us about that role.
The first thing to say, and I've said this in interviews before, Alan is more than a striker coach. So that's the first thing to say. But so the relationship started 2010, 2011. I went to America to finish my career, and Alan was just already there for a year or so. And 2 Scottish guys sitting on the bench, I was going to say playing, but we sat on the bench for the same team. So we really got on.
It's in North Carolina?
In North Carolina, yeah. And we hit it off, just got on really well. And stayed in touch, really, just over the course of years. And just talking about football all the time. Alan had his business. He's got a business mind that's always moving. He got more and more into the coaching as well. So he came home, he gambled, came home to nothing from jobs in America and built up the striker coaching, a superior striker as coaching business. was noticed how well he was doing through England, got invited into the England camp doing bits and pieces, then became a part of the staff. So when I was thinking I'd get an opportunity maybe at this year, starting to interview, what would your staff look like? I wanted to get Alan on board, and I didn't know if he would do it. So I think we're fortunate to be able to get him. He's brilliant in the club.
Did I see a wee moment in Iceland? Was there a goal in our, I think, away tie, was it? Where it was pre-rehearsed and it had been worked out.
Yeah.
And Calvin puts the ball in.
Yeah.
And
there was two of that
there was a wee bit of celebration. I thought, they've worked on that.
Yeah, there was two. I think, actually the one where we were kind of laughing was because we scored the second one off it. And it was less rehearsed than the first one, which they were both semi-rehearsed. And the first one's actually interesting. We did a thing with some people at the club last night. And I was telling you, I'm not like, I can remember stuff sometimes. So I was looking to what video we're going to show this group of people last night. And so we showed them a pre-match thing. I said, I want to show them some set-piece stuff as well that Alan works on. So I said to Alan, do you remember the end of the training session in Iceland? And he says, nah. I says, right at the end. And he said, I don't remember. So earlier that day, I'd spoke to Henry and I says, pull me up that video of the training session in Iceland. I want to see it right to the end. So getting information into players when you can't do a lot on the grass. Calvin is practicing his deliveries from set pieces, hitting the front area, back area. And Alan walked over and I was getting a ball in. And I heard Alan say to him, I'm going to get you to practice one. And we're not going to stand and practice it in case people are here. He said, I'm going to go in, I want you to whip it on the grass to the front post area where Ramirez scored the goal. So on the video, the training video, Alan walks into the box and stands right where Ramirez, I could show you at some point. And Calvin does his signal, whips it right on Alan's right foot. Alan missed, he was laughing last night. But he didn't run, he just standed. So we're showing them the detail that goes into it. But we didn't practice it. We tried it against Hibs last year. And someone didn't do their job right, or we would have scored. One of the players that was meant to do something else, and I won't give too much away, but no. Someone didn't do their job. So Canberra didn't get a shot off because of someone else. So we showed them, the only work we did on it was telling Calvin where to hit it, and then showing them last year's mistake, and then showing them a graphic. So Alan's depth of being thorough, that's a terrible phrase, but yeah, is brilliant, and Henry's good at showing people how to get it in the video and stuff as well.
Without being too nostalgic, it does feel that this should fit at this club because one of the most famous nights in our history was against Bayern Munich, where we're losing, and Gordon and John McMaster. I mean, two world-class footballers. John underestimated because his left foot was, well, I'm speaking to somebody who resembles that use of the left foot. And the bumping into each other thing. I think people have forgotten that was pinched by Jock Stein for the first game of the World Cup in '82 against New Zealand, and it worked again. And this thing and Bayern Munich were caught out. That's an individual example, but there was another one under Ferguson at Partick Thistle where a player actually ran over the ball and everybody was like, and he ran all the way around the corner, ended up back in the box, chipped it in, and I think it strikes me that working out how to do things that you can do effectively but other people aren't anticipating should obviously be part of football. But I don't think this rule Alan's got is very common yet.
Yeah, no, it's not. But he does get pigeonholed as the forward striker or the set piece guy and stuff like that because he was England's set piece and forwards. He's the assistant manager here that is good at what he does. I think you ask any of the players, we're all hands-on with how we coach and how we work. But Alan, he's hungry to get better as a coach. He's not worked in a club environment before. But he's a great person. He's great at his work. And honestly, we're really, really lucky to have him.
Because day by day should make you more fertile. Because in the international thing, the other complaint is, well, I only see them every 2-3 months. I might not get the guys we want. And whereas you've got a real chance to either build on something quickly at a club level or erase a mistake quickly.
And the way we work, we're all very involved in the decisions. It's not, I don't like to be, this is what's happening and you guys deal with it. I prefer to be, let's all get involved. I know I have to make the final decision. But I think the level of involvement that Alan and Scott and Henry get, I think they're happy with the way that we work as a group.
There's no harm in Henry, but before we close, I have to know more about Scott, because you know, everybody said, what you suffer when you're my age is everybody moaning to you about Willie Miller, for example, or Big Ruud Gullit, and then years later they go, oh, I wish we had him.
Yeah.
So the biter's now bit, because Scott's scared the life out of our players since he was born, either for Hibs or particularly for Celtic, and you're like,
yeah,
because I'm a belligerent type. But you do want that here. Now, as a player, however well he plays this season or next season, I don't think that's his major role. I think personality with you in that group on the training ground, that's probably the major reason that Scott Brown is here. Tell people that don't know him, the person, about him, and why you vouched faith in him.
In terms of leadership on the pitch, I don't think there's anybody better. And I think he's proved it over the last 15 years. And I think he's already proved it in a red jersey. He wanted to be involved in a coaching staff that he was involved in it. He could have stayed at Celtic. They were desperate to keep him. He would have still been playing probably. I think that says how lucky we are to get him as well, that a club that's won everything for the last 10, 15 years, whatever it is, actually still wanted to keep him, their captain. But he's driven, he wants to get better, he wants to learn everything about managing and coaching, while still focusing on being one of the best professionals at the club. He puts demand on everybody. The young players are seeing it. Everybody in the whole club can feel he's got a presence. And I spoke to him over the years, but obviously you're away, you're on the phone all the time, and I forgot how much of a physical presence he's got when you meet him. He's an imposing character, and I think having him in the group, but everybody loves him. Guys that have hated him love him. It's normal though for me. It's like you said earlier, like when growing up a United fan, how much does it matter when you play against them? It doesn't matter at all. If you hated Scott Brown, now he plays for your team, do you not want your team to win because Scott Brown plays for it? Nah, you want Scott Brown to be the best player, and you want everybody else to hate him, which hopefully if we're doing our job right, they will.
When the buzz is that going through his badges, his peers said, stand out, quality. He is still in that bit of learning and not just be the captain who says do this, do that, but how to communicate, how to inspire, how to take people aside, maybe how to advise you. He's got to be careful too, because he can't be seen by somebody as, God, if I confide in Scott, the player, I shall go straight to manager. That's the way dressing rooms work.
Yeah, I think Scott, before he came in, it was all done. Before he came in, I said to him, where are you going to change? And he said, I was thinking the same thing. And I said, well, to me, I think you change with the players, because they know you're with us as well anyway. You're assistant manager at the club, so they know. You want the best for the club. There's stuff that goes on that Scott won't hear about for the players. I'm 100% sure. And he's the same, he's talked to me about it. I'm sure there's a message, there's a group message with the players that Scott's on, and I'm sure there's a group message that Scott's not on.
Probably healthy that way?
Yeah.
Think?
Yeah, it doesn't put Scott in a situation. He also knows, and the players know, if something comes to me through Scott, I've still got to make the decision. It's not Scott Brown making the decision. He's decided it's worth, this has to come with you. Or he's filtering it and saying, nah, just leave it. So he's in a position that's difficult, but he's brilliant at it. He spends enough time with us. He spends the usual time with the players. He gives the players information that he needs to. He's everything we expected.
I have to say, you told me very early on you're going to be impressed by the team I'm putting together, and I am. And I'm excited, and I can see a lot of things happening. I can't stop without saying that although I don't spend a lot of time in this company, the chairman has imbued me with a sense of momentum, ambition. I like him, I like listening to him. I love the fact that he's an absolute out-and-out dandy. who's been on the terraces, who's done the travelling.
Yeah.
But I also approve of he seems modern, and I like the fact that he put so much trust in you. What is the commonality between you and him and Atlanta? Is it that your personalities are all jigsaw click anyway, or has Atlanta taught you and him things that unite you?
I don't know, because it's what's happened to me. So I think there's almost a misconception that I went to Atlanta because Dave was there. So that's almost out there, I think. It's like I went there because of that. I was coaching youths in North Carolina and went to Atlanta United because of Tony Annan. So he took me into the academy, get to know a local businessman that happens to be Scottish, and then he happens to be the Aberdeen chairman. So that kind of just became natural. And people say you got a chance to get to know him over 2-3 years, and I'm just working away. I'm Atlanta United first team coach at one point. I'm not really thinking about coming home. So I think the big thing for me was the comfort level, knowing I had 2 or 3 years to show that I'm not the right person for this club, just through my everyday life and how I'm working. And there's also the opportunity for him to be assessing me constant. It's almost, without knowing it, you're doing this interview that's, I don't know, 2-3 years, whatever. So pretty easy to mess up over that length of time if you're acting. But I was driven to be the best coach I could, and I think he saw it. I think he saw how my teams played. He saw what Atlanta had taught me. I don't think the commonality of Atlanta United and him and me is anything. I think it's just the fact that he was in the area when I went there.
But as a drive, I mean, presumably being part of a champion franchise suited you very well, because those are your standards. It's what you wanted as a footballer, it's what you want as a coach, that excellence, winning, trying to repeat win.
Yeah.
Presumably that was the atmosphere when Tata Martino was there.
Yeah. I wasn't involved in it though.
But you were able. No, I'm not talking about you coaching him to glory.
Yeah.
You're part of a culture. You're there every day.
Yeah.
The attitudes, the shared success, the feeling of this is a champion club is what I mean.
Yeah, I think even go back to the original coming in here at 12 and 13. It's when I was coaching kids in North Carolina, I wanted them to be the best. When I was coaching my 17s at Atlanta, I wanted them to be the best. To me, it didn't matter what club I was coaching for. And the attachment to Atlanta winning the MLS, it's actually funny because I've got a ring. You know, you get the ring. So everybody at the club, Darren Neal's organised that everybody got this ring. So I'd been working at Atlanta United in the academy, and Tony Annan says to me, "You need to go and get measured for your ring." And I thought he was winding me up. I was like, "Yeah, good one." And he's like, "No, you need to go and get measured." Nah, yeah, come on, mate. I coached the 17s. So I don't feel like I was part. I've not got a picture with the trophy because I wasn't part of winning. There's pictures of everybody in the club with holding the MLS Cup. I never had any part in it, so I've not got a picture with the cup.
You need to win a trophy here then.
That's how I fix it.
Well, look, before I get you talking more than you want to about Calvin Ramsey.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, what a fucking player.
He's all right, isn't he? Yeah, he's good.
Aberdonian Cafu? I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there for discussion. I think we'll leave it by saying, in a team meeting with Alan and Scott and Henry about which TV to buy. But for the meantime,
they're trying to help me.
This has been the big interview with Stephen Glass, who hasn't got a photo of the MLS trophy, but will have a photo of him and the squad with a trophy.
There's one up there.
In this boardroom.
But I'm in a jersey.
Then what days? 1996. I tell you, I went to that. I was Big McLeish got me a ticket.
Right.
Behind the goal. Not fully sober, I'd have to say. We stood afterwards when we got into the city centre. We stood on the table in some daft pub on George Square, singing over and over again, "It's a goal, Duncan Shearer, walking in a Shearer wonderland." So I've tried not to make this wholly about Aberdeen. You're the Aberdeen manager, but for my taste, you had a career of elegance and success, and it was interesting. And I wanted to talk about all of that. But if you want to come back another day and talk us through the 90 minutes of beating the D as well. I mean, it must have been a hell of a day. I know you don't care about the opposition and all that.
I do when it was them. It's different. When it's cared because they're good, it's different. But
sorry, Charlie, like Adam, wherever you are.
Charlie's all right. Charlie's a country boy as well. So.
He's fantastic. Well, listen, manager Stephen Glass in the hallowed environs of Aberdeen's boardroom. Gracias, mister.
Cheers, yeah.
Muy bien.